So welcome to Truthworker Theater Company's production of In Prism, Boxed In and Blacked Out in America. You all are so special to us. We have the privilege to be coming. We traveled 12 young people and myself and my tech director in a van all the way from New York City to come here to share this work with you. And it is, yes, thank you. It is an incredible honor to be able to do that, and we were all just circled up backstage talking about what it means to us. Truthworker Theater Company is a social justice-based hip-hop theater company from Brooklyn, New York, and all of the performers are in your age range. So it's high school and college-aged youth, ranging from about 16 to 22. And everything that you're gonna see on stage is original work that has been developed, created, and performed by the young people. So we have two productions. Our first production is called Barcode, and it's about the connection between the school and the prisons. We call it the school to prison pipeline. And that's the first production that we created, and we were thinking about stop and frisk, criminalization, policing, the Trayvon Martin case, the Zimmerman trial, and the company was creating a piece that looked at some of those issues in our communities and gave voice to the stories and experiences of the young people in the company so that we could really think together as a community. And then after creating that piece, we decided that we wanted to go deeper into the conversation of looking at the prison industrial complex, the issue of mass incarceration, and particularly how it affects certain people. Oftentimes, those people are more low income and people of color. And we had the honor of being able to work with an innocent man on death row named Jarvis J. Masters, who has spent 33 years in prison since he was 19 years old for a crime he never committed. And he has been sentenced to death. 22 of those years he spent in solitary confinement. And he, in those circumstances, has managed spiritually and mentally to find freedom. And he has written 2 books about his story, his life experiences, his spirituality, and his memories of growing up. And the company has read both those books, and we've been in direct contact with Jarvis through phone and letters. And Alexa and I have visited him in California twice, and we've been creating this play that we're about to show you with him. So he calls us and he listens into rehearsals and he gives us ideas, and the company has taken chapters from his book and turned it into a play. So this play follows his story, but it also tells some of the stories of all of us and uses life stories from people in the company to inform what we're creating. So we are so grateful. Wendy, I just want to thank you for finding us, for reaching out, for inviting us, and for making it so comfortable for us to come here. And it means so much that we can be a part of the Piece by Piece Summit Conference, and that this is happening and that this is continuing to happen. It's an incredible movement, and it's really important. And for us to be able to be here and share this moment with all of you means everything. We want them to come on stage? Yeah. All right, so at the count of 3, make as much noise as you can for Truthworker Theater Company. 1, 2, 3.
I open my palms to the sky, surrendering to the human hopelessness that it does not despair me. For life needs no more despair, I pray. To turn a situation as bad as mine into an opportunity to be of some benefit, to transcend my present circumstances, to transform everything around me into something almost radiant.
Fix your faces!
Come on, Jarvis.
This here is Jarvis. He's new, but y'all know what to do. Get your bag and follow them to the room.
Hurry up, kid, come on!
Man, I'm innocent. I think I killed myself if I had to end up in this prison. I just wish somebody would listen.
Well, I'll listen to you, friend. What do you need?
You're no friend of mine. What the hell do you know?
Well, I know that killing yourself ain't no way to go. And hell, there'd definitely be nobody listen to you then.
Even if you did listen to me, it's not like it make a difference. You're in here just like me.
You're right. We are both locked up in here. There's a difference between you and I. See, I'm the master of my own narrative, and I know the legacy that I'm gonna leave behind. Do you?
Man, what you talking about legacies? You crazy.
This isn't gonna break you unless you let it. Joe, you know what, man? I want you to try something for me. Look at me. I want you to close your eyes.
What?
Trust me. Close your eyes. Please, Joe, just please. Thank you. Now, I want you to picture the sun, Jarvis.
Man, there ain't no sun in here. Fuck your son!
You need to calm down. This isn't going to work unless you're calm.
That's gonna take a long time. Stop fooling. I really gotta tell you something. That boy crazy. Man, I don't know why I do Alice keep trying to kill himself. Where I come from, black folks think Lord, not me daily. White folks ain't out here lynching no more. And here we are, man, in the middle of SQ in the 80s. Staring at this young black man out here trying to lynch himself, kill himself, and sting himself like he ain't black. He been through that.
Text. Relax, man. Ain't nobody trying to lynch nobody.
Of course.
You think he gonna try that stupid shit again?
Hell nah. That boy was scared shit to live. If anything, that boy wants to live than to see your crusty ass dying for his.
That right. But you know what, Tex? That's the best goddamn fuck you I ever heard.
That shit was.
Say Tex.
What?
Fuck you.
Alex, God can judge me after I can handle your judgment.
They placed me here, and for some reason I feel myself at peace instead of in pieces.
In the most crevice of my heart, I still wish for change.
What if I told my mother I loved her instead of leaving her?
What if I kissed my wife one last time instead of beating her?
What if I could walk straight? No walls.
No gates.
No corners.
No cave.
No
touching.
Just the
space.
spreading of your wings.
Take your space.
love. I hear the pain of your ancestors in your tears.
Their stories laced in your breath, yet their strength holds your spine. It takes a flame to ignite a seed of the redwood forest. It takes one drop of water to change the tide. It takes our words to form a chorus of voices, to build freedom where bars once stood. You hold ancient wisdom and light in your skin. You are a vessel. We are ready for your truth.
Nice, bright song. still.
Let's give another round of applause for a lot, and we want to give a chance about 15 minutes to do some questions and answers, a little dialogue with those of you here in the audience and the performers on stage from Truthworker Theater Company. So let's open this up. Let's make sure that our questions are connected to the work, the company, and the process, and that they're appropriate.
Can we get the house lights on?
And yeah, let's bring a little house lights up so that we can all see each other. And why don't you guys come right up front? And again, guys, we don't have mics up here, so you're gonna have to use huge voices, and we're also gonna have to stay listening so that we can really hear each other and have a dialogue. So is there anyone who would like to start with a question or a comment?
What do you feel?
That was freaking amazing.
Stand up and say it nice and loud. Or say it loud. Say it
Say it
loud.
loud.
That was amazing.
What made it amazing?
Just every piece of it. I teared up. I was crying.
Back there? Yeah? Stand up and shout it out.
Thank you, amazing. Who wants to speak to that?
How long did it take them to put this together?
I guess I can speak to that. We, this past summer, had a summer intensive that was, I want to say...
7 weeks.
7 weeks, there you go. 7 weeks where we came in, we had already read the 2 books that Jarvis wrote. So we came in with a lot of material already on our minds. So when we came in for those 7 weeks, we kind of just decided what parts of his stories were the most relevant to tell. It's all really relevant, but what really is the core of what makes Jarvis's story important. And through those 7 weeks, you know, between creating scenes and scrapping some of them and creating more scenes and being able to weave things together, we were able to create this. And then in August, we did a workshop, and through that, we got feedback from some of our audience members, and we were able to develop the work further for a November run. And then after that, we developed the work further. So really, it's just still ongoing. The work is still happening. The work is still being revised. But the initial process was about 7 weeks over the summer.
Cool. Any other questions, comments, ideas, thoughts? Yes, sir.
How did it feel to play Jarvis?
Playing Jarvis, I mean, at first you want to jump at the opportunity to be able to just be in a role that stems from a person that is such a powerful person. Because Jarvis in himself, even though, as Samara said, he's been incarcerated for so many years and wrongfully accused, still manages to find peace within himself through the acts of Buddhism and meditation. So we exchanged conversations with Jarvis over the summer. We were able to talk to him. We were able to send letters back and forth. So I was able to really connect with Jarvis before really taking on the role. And I would say, not only for me, but for most of my cast members, I think that playing any of these roles kind of weigh heavy, because it's heavy topics, and it's not just your run-of-the-mill youth play. And I think that's what made it emotional. We had rehearsals where, you know, tears were shed and emotions were felt, but that just is what makes the work that much more raw and that much more potent, you know?
And we had 2 Jarvises. So we had, did you guys catch that we had the older Jarvis and the younger Jarvis? Raise your hand if you caught that. Word, good job. So James, do you want to speak to what it was like to play the younger Jarvis and to find that character? Please.
Well, the Jarvis's story when he was a young boy really touched me, because he went through a lot, and yeah, I mean, it just felt really heavy to play this kid, because I read his story and I even cried through some of it. It's really intense, and it just felt really heavy to have to, you know, follow in his shoes and try to become the kid that he was. You know, it was really tough, but I eventually connected to it. It took a long time, and I myself have trouble playing a kid, but you know, you learn.
Any other questions? There we.
This is the both personalities of the main character. How do you guys feel by expressing his feelings and situations between his younger person and his older person, and how his adventures, so to speak, go up to his limitations?
So what he asked is how you feel being the younger Jarvis and the older Jarvis and the adventure going from one to the other. Did I state it right?
Okay, so, sorry, you want to say something real quick?
Yeah, I think if we were reflecting, we heard from older Jarvis talking about what it was like to find that character, and then from younger Jarvis. So then as a company, we stretched ourselves and all worked together to make sure that we could create that arc from the younger to the older so that you could all follow it. So it was a creative process and it was a challenging process, but it was about really taking the two books that he wrote and the stories that he's told us personally and seeing if we could weave them together in a way that brought the character to life through two bodies. Someone in the back had a question?
What did Jarvis get arrested at?
What did Jarvis get arrested for? Who wants to answer that?
And what age was it as well?
Go ahead, Becca. Becca will answer.
He was arrested at 19 for robbery, initially for robbery, but after a year of being in there, these people put out a hit on a guard and he was murdered. And even though evidence goes against the fact that Jarvis had nothing to do with it, they still gave him life on death row and only gave the people made a deal, so they only got extra time to the sentence.
And Jarvis was locked up for a robbery initially at 19 years old. And what happened in the prison was that there was an elder gang leader who ordered the hit. Then there was another young inmate who was only 22 who murdered the guard. And then they accused Jarvis when they asked where he got the weapon. They said, oh, the new kid that just came in. He was still a juvenile. And they accused him of sharpening a piece of metal that the guy who murdered him said he got from him to kill this guard. They were 3 tiers apart. And he's still alive today, 33 years later, because of so much evidence that proves that it was coerced testimony and that there was all these statements that were taken back by witnesses. And they said, even though the gang leader who ordered the hit and the 22-year-old who killed the guard, they were not given the death penalty. And they said that Jarvis deserved the death penalty because of his unstable background and past. And so they said that he was like a bad kid. But the bad kid, what did that mean? What did you see here? I want to hear from you guys about what that path was that created that bad kid or that instability. You guys can call out a couple of those things. If they looked at his record, and he didn't really have a criminal record, but what did they see? What did we learn about his life? Where did he live? Okay, so he was shuffled from foster home to foster home. How did he deal with an abusive foster home? What did he do? He ran away. Very good. So once you run away, and then he didn't give his name. He was told that in order to get out of an abusive home, if you don't give your name and you're found by a cop, they have no choice but to take you to McLaren Hall, which he thought would be, remember we heard on the roof? They said it's the place to be if you're one of us, because you get a hot meal, a bed to sleep in, and they even let you go to school. But what he didn't know is that was a juvenile detention center. It was a boys' home. So he was institutionalized at age 11, Once he started being a ward of the state, that showed a record because he was in institutions. And then he was shuffled from institution to institution. Essentially, he was homeless and he was an orphan. And so he gets the death penalty after being incarcerated at 19 because he deserves it based on his record.
What's his status now?
His status now is that he's still on death row. And there's a lot of people who are on a legal team, spiritual people, friends, family, us, and hopefully more and more of you who will become aware of and rally for him, and also for justice, period. Right? Because Jarvis is special. We love him. We know him. We want him to live and we want him free. But Jarvis is sadly one of many. And a lot of people right in this room where we experience injustice on a regular basis. Things that don't feel fair. And so we have to try to stay true to what we believe in, all of us, and find a place for hope, even when it seems hard. Yes?
I can kind of sympathize with Jarvis, like in that, and also my grandfather, and the Trayvon Martin case. Like, my grandfather was wrongly convicted for something he didn't do, and he's still in jail to this day.
I'm going to repeat what you said just so everyone can hear you. So this gentleman in the front said that he can sympathize with Jarvis because both of a personal story from his grandfather, who was wrongly convicted of a crime he did not commit, who's still in prison to this day, and also from what he knows of the Trayvon Martin case. And that's something that we really try to do, is pull together stuff that's happening in our communities every day, and stories from the personal lives and family members of all the people in this company. Anyone else?
Right in the back here?
It made me feel something. Like, it made me felt some fear, some shockness and stuff. Like, it made me have this feeling inside. Like, it made my heart racing, like, what's gonna happen next? Stuff.
Right here?
All y'all did a good job. I like your voice. Yeah, she can sing. I want to do a song with you. Yeah. Big Jarvis and Lil Jarvis, y'all both did a good job. I want to let y'all know that personally. All y'all did a good job. You right here on the end, you did a wonderful job. Everybody was great. I like that. I like the show. I like this comeback next time, you know what I'm saying, with my family. These are my family right here. Y'all see this youth bill. Can I get a youth bill? Y'all see I got things, you know what I'm saying, correctly by myself. I'm a producer. I'm an R&B singer myself. So if y'all need me, let me know. Thank you.
Okay, so before we move into lunch, I just wanted to take a minute. Can you guys each introduce yourselves? Shh. Tell us how old you are and what you're doing in life outside of Truthworker Theater. And we start at the end, big voices.
My name is Lil McCray. You can call me Ray for short. I'm 19 and I'm a poet and actor, and other than Truthworker, I just write.
My name is Carnell. I'm 18. I dance. I act for Truthworker, and outside of Truthworker, I'm a stylist.
My name is Ethan Romero. I'm 18 years old. I am a poet and writer on and off of Truthworker.
My name is Kayla. I'm 17. I'm a senior in high school. I'm a dancer, actress, athlete.
My name is Desi. I'm 18, and outside of Truthworker, I am a gymnast.
My name is Jahari. I'm 17, and outside of Truthworker, I train at my school in musical theater.
My name is Ricky. I'm 22. Outside of Truthworker, I'm a teaching artist, and I also am a venue manager.
My name is Zafar. I'm 19, and I'm a sophomore in college.
Hi, my name is Leah. I'm 17 years old, and I'm a senior, basically.
My name is James. I'm 18. I'm an actor, musician, rapper, try to sing.
Oh, I want to add something to James's introduction. The transition music, all the beats that you heard, are James's.
Hey.
something that's really important at Truthworker is that this is horizontal leadership. So while I'm the founder, while I'm the artistic director, Alix is the technical director, that all the decisions are made collectively and all the work comes from the young people. So the set that you see here is built and visioned and designed by the company. So the music, designed, produced by the company, and et cetera, that this is something that is really collaborative. It's not top down. Go ahead.
I'm Rebecca, I'm 20, and I go to John Jay College
of Criminal Justice.
Yeah, and I write.
And my name is Samara Gayev, and I'm a performer myself. I have a career as a dancer, an actor, and a poet, and a theater director. And so, in addition to Truthworker, I work all over New York City and sometimes beyond as an educator and an artist in residence. So I come to a lot of schools, community centers, transitional alternative schools. I work with a lot of formerly incarcerated and gang-affiliated youth. And I use the arts as a way to think about issues of social justice and to create healing and transformation and create a platform for young people and all people to tell their stories on their own terms. I also deliver babies on the side. Alixa, you want to introduce yourself?
In the back of the room.
Truthworker, I'm a professional poet, MC, and multimedia theater artist. I train myself how to run this board for the company.
Yeah. We're here, so there's, I believe there's lunch.
Right, so let me explain to everybody what's going on. We're going to do about 35 minutes at lunch, and then we'll have an opportunity to come back in here for about a half an hour to talk informally with the cast and crew, and we'll have some closing announcements.
GAEV is my last name. I was posing.
Middle school kids had to leave, so right now in the room we just have the older students, and we thought we'd be able to have a little bit more discussion with the cast. We're going to do about 10-15 minutes, and then we'll do a little ending, and then we'll send you off on your way. But I want to ask you something. Show me through your hands and your mouths what you felt about Truthworker Theater. Let me hear the love. Okay, so who's in the room? You feel. You feel from where? Who else is in the room? Morton. Who else is in the room?
CFC, family planning, Fall River.
Citizens Family Planning, Fall River. Who else is in the room? About the house that was wrapped off last year and what you feel did for that project. Somebody want to, from Youthville Fall River, want to talk about it for 2 minutes? Okay, we have a staff member from Youthville Fall River that can tell us about it. Okay, staff member here, go ahead.
Because I can't pass the merchandise table for something that I...
Okay, so nice and loud, you can do it.
Okay, so basically we took a bunch of students last year to Peace by Peace Summit, and they were talking a lot about bullying. And someone in a middle school, I believe, from Talbot, had a lot of courage and showed a lot of bravery and kind of stood up and said, I got bullied, this is how I got bullied, this is how I got through it, I'm still dealing with being bullied. And we had the honor of having a couple of Youthville students last year who sort of went up to them after the show and said, that was really cool of you to stand up for that, and we're sorry that that happened to you, but we thought it was really cool of you. And when he came back and, sort of talked to those students and said that really touched him, and that really touched us in the program to know that something so small could go so far.
Okay, even though that's not what I asked, we'll come back to what I asked, because we're not going to, but the story that she's telling was a middle school kid who has Tourette's syndrome. And Tourette's is a syndrome that sometimes gives you tics and gives you verbal things that you can't control. There's different degrees of it. And the question was asked to the group, who do you forgive and who do you want to forgive you? And he stood up and said, I would like my classmates to forgive me for being so annoying because I have Tourette's. And at that point in time, a kid from Youthville, Fall River, picked himself up and walked over to him and put his arms around him and said, you don't have to be bullied for this. That it's okay for you to tell people that you have Tourette's and that your behavior is going to be such that sometimes you're going to be annoyed. And that was a real magic moment when somebody from the older kids reaches out to one of our middle school kids and makes an amazing difference in that child's life. Okay, so you have the cast in front of you. We don't have a lot of noise in the room. Let's hear some good questions. What do you want to ask them? What do you want to know about them? What are you interested in? Go ahead.
Why did you choose to get into theaters and performing arts?
Why did you choose to get into theater and performing arts? Go ahead.
So, like I started out just making music and writing. I never really knew what performing arts was.
That's a lot. Yeah, okay. Great. Not great, but thank you guys for answering that question. That's a hard question. I'm curious if anyone has any connections that they want to draw, if there's any connections in this audience that you'd like to draw from in your own community, in your own lives, of places where you've experienced the impacts of incarceration among folks that you may know or care about, and drawing connections to what you've seen, if it made you think about anything. I know that one person did share that in the talkback, but I'm curious to hear from anyone else. Or anyone from the company. Any connections to how incarceration affects our own lives?
I live in a housing area in Brooklyn. So I've had many experiences getting stopped, stop and frisk. But there was this
Can you explain, Ricky, stop and frisk? We don't have that here.
Well, God bless you. Stop and frisk is annoying. Basically, stop and frisk gives the cops the right to basically stop whoever they feel the need to stop in the street, ask them for ID, and frisk them to see if they have anything on them without any probable cause. So, again, you know, dealing with that in Brooklyn, there was just this one situation that really got me angry. I was actually in the next building over from my building, visiting a friend, and me and a mutual friend of both of ours were leaving, and we were in the lobby, and we were just sitting there waiting, you know, just hanging out for a while. We were about to leave the building, when these 4 cops walk in through the back door. They start questioning us, what are we doing here? Just, you know, the ridiculous questions that they ask. What do you have on you? Do you have weapons? And they actually arrested me and my friend for trespassing in the building next to the building that was my building. And it kind of baffled me because to a certain extent, it kind of felt like this is my neighborhood, you know? This is where I grew up. My grandmother had the apartment. She passed it over to my mother. My mother doesn't pass it over to me and my sister. So it's been in 3 generations, yet I can't go across the street without being arrested for trespassing in a building that I've been in all my life. So that's the reality of it. And we just got, you know, we have to find ways in order to not make ourselves targets, which sounds horrible. Because, like, how do you not make yourself a target? But unfortunately, you have to tiptoe in parts around authority.
I think that James had his hand up and so did Leah. James, no? Leah, go ahead.
Basically, incarceration has, like, to do with me. Not necessarily, but, you know, yeah, do you know what school to prison pipeline is? Does anybody know school to prison pipeline in the audience? Raise your hands. Okay, I'm not going to call you out.
The school to prison pipeline?
All right, so a few people. School to prison pipeline is basically, it's like the connection between school and prison. Public schools and prison. And it's like, my experience with school to prison pipeline is that, like, there's like many ways that school could lead to prison, public schools, because the way they're set up systemically. But in my school, like, if you get penalized, if you talk out loud, you get suspended. Once you have 3 suspensions, you already have like a not court case, but they're able to take you to court. If you bump into a teacher by accident, they're able to take you to court. That's like an example of school to prison pipeline, because it's like for minor mistakes that you do in school and you just like accidentally bump into a teacher, they're gonna already send you to court and you already have a court case on your whole, what's that thing called? Your whole record. And those like those small record things, they build up until they actually become real big illegal actions that end up making you go into jail. So it's like I don't know if that happens to you about like can you tell me one thing that happens if y'all get suspended? Like what do you have to do to get suspended? Fighting. So fighting in New York City is fighting, that's automatically a court case. Automatically a court case. Like you fighting, put that on one person, that's automatically a court case. So now if the other person that you was fighting got a bruise on it, you're automatically doing time. So it's school to prison pipeline because it's so easy in public schools to get caught up and end up in prison. Think about it.
And then there's certain neighborhoods that have certain populations and certain demographics of population that are also more likely to have more enforcement. So school safety agents in cop uniforms, metal detectors like airports, you have to take off your belts, your shoes, empty out your pockets. Do you guys have that?
Not at school.
Not at school. So
We used to, right, after 9/11.
yeah, so we got that, but not every single school, but definitely the schools in more lower income neighborhoods, and there is a direct connection also between class, like economics, and race. And so then what we start to see is a specific demographic of young kids who have more on their rap sheets, or more suspensions, or more issues in which it could feel criminalizing, and it is criminalizing. Johara, you wanted to say something?
Well, you said a lot of it.
Okay.
I just basically wanted to identify that prison is an institution, you know? It's why we talk about institutionalization in this piece in reference to Jarvis's story. And the thing that Leah was talking about like little, like tiny flaws in your record adding up, that's essentially what happens in it, you know? And it happens to people every day. It happens to more people than you can imagine. It happens to people that you've probably met in your life and you have no idea, you know? And school is an institution in a way, you know? That's what we were talking about in terms of the parallels, the correlations between public school and prison. Like the same food is served. The same people the same company that's in charge of feeding inmates does that for public schools.
Public school food is actually worse than prison.
It's
nutrition.
Wild. Like, you know, and no one really knows that because, I mean, fortunately, none of us are like in prison right now. And so that's not something that we even think about. But it's crazy that one could be compared to an inmate by just showing up to gain an education, you know? And it's a hard thing to live with once you're faced with the reality of that. Like, I didn't know any of this before I joined Truthworker. And when I walked into what was happening, the piece that we were doing was called Barcode, which is a performative analysis of the school to prison pipeline. And so I had to get my knowledge up. I had to learn about what I was working with. Because you shouldn't walk into something ready to show it to other people if you're not fully aware of what story you're telling. And so I had to learn a lot about it, get informed, and now we're able to have communication like this and conversations with people who are ignorant to the fact that, you know, we're all being processed in one way or another.
So I would love to transition our conversation a little bit. So we're talking a lot about things that are pretty rough and hard and painful. And issues and problems and frustrations, and that can leave us feeling pretty down. It can leave us feeling hopeless. It can leave us feeling angry. It can leave us feeling sad and frustrated. And that we can take out on other people and on ourselves. So we can hurt ourselves and we can engage in violence because there's all sorts of stuff pent up. So in this show, I'm curious if anyone can raise their hand and let us know what it is that you noticed that Jarvis started learning about in order to find a sense of hope and freedom. Yeah.
Like, in the beginning, he was conflicted with, why am I here if I didn't do anything wrong? evidence or whatever they did find. I don't know the whole story, but it pointed mostly to him, which I can understand why they did that, why they sent him for life and the death penalty. But if there's nothing to point the evidence to something else or someone else, he's trapped there with nothing to do. But he also has the sense of, I didn't do anything wrong. Maybe if I wait it out, or maybe I should listen to my lawyer. If I wait it out and think about what's happening, I might be able to get a sense of hope and be able to get out of here when it's needed.
Good. So I heard you talk about patience. I heard you talk about hope. And I heard you talk about something with his lawyer. Yes.
I want to say something about what he said. He said that they had no evidence to point him to. Point it towards somebody else. But at the same time, I thought in the court of law, you're innocent till proven guilty.
You would hope so. But does it always feel like? Does it always feel like that? Yeah. I mean, raise your hand if you've ever felt misunderstood or accused of something that you didn't do.
Right. Leave your hand up if it's by your parents. Leave your hand up if you feel like you've been misunderstood or accused by a teacher. Leave your hand up if you feel like you've been misunderstood or accused by a friend or a classmate. So look around you.
So now, raise your hand one more time if that feels like it happens often with people who are in positions of power over you. Okay, so then what do we do? Let's put our hands down. So what do we do for ourselves in times where things feel really rough or tough or hard or make us angry? What are a couple of things that you guys do for yourselves? Let's close there. Yeah. Actually, I want to hear from someone new.
Right.
What are things that you've done for yourselves that you do? So,
Well, sometimes I try to relax and think about some good things.
good. Relaxation, yes?
Sometimes I have to draw.
You draw. Excellent. Raise your hand if you've ever used art as a way to help yourself calm down. Any form of art. Beautiful. What else? Something else?
Right here.
Yes. Playing basketball. Raise your hand if you've ever used athletics or sports to get your emotions out.
Football.
Great. Yes, right here. Music. Raise your hand if you've ever listened to music or play music to release emotions. Great. Let's get one more idea. Yes. Raise your hand if
So somebody asked me at lunch if this is a piece-by-piece conference, and we always say we have every piece but the piece we need. If this is a piece-by-piece conference, why did I bring in a theater company that talks about social justice, about fairness? And the answer is, I'm going to answer my own question. Okay? The answer is something that I learned a long time ago. So in the 1970s, I was part of a 2-year peacekeeping mission in the Middle East. I went to Israel. I lived in Israel, Egypt, Syria, Jordan, and Lebanon. And we went from small village to small village, and we talked to people about how to bring about peace. And guess what? They didn't want to talk to us about peace. And the reason why they didn't want to talk to us about peace is because it was so far beyond what they needed. They needed water. They needed food. They needed warm homes. They needed not to have animals living in their homes. They needed a way to educate their children. And they needed fairness and recognition from the people that were in control of them. And what I learned is that you can't have peace until you have justice. And we need to learn about justice before we can bring about peace. And I always like to end this conference with a story. And this story took place in the old country many, many years ago when trains just were starting to travel. And there was a village that was at the intersection of 2 train tracks. One track ran north to south, and one track ran east to west. And the trains
had to be careful that one train didn't hit the other train. So they had built a platform, and they had some stairs leading up to the platform, and on the platform they had 2 boxes, and they had a ladder, and you climbed up the ladder and you stood on the 2 boxes, and there was a lantern. And if it was safe for the north-south train to travel, then the man would wave the lantern this way. And if it was safe for the east-west train, then the man would wave the lantern this way. And it went that way for 10 years, and everything was fine. But one day, the unexpected happened, the unimaginable happened, and one train collided with another train. And it was horrible. And of course, when things like this happen, you have to go to court and you got to figure out really what happened. So they asked the lantern keeper to come to court. And they put him on the witness stand. And they said to him, "David, what did you do that day?" He said, "Well, I climbed up the stairs, and I got onto the platform, and I climbed up the ladder, and I stood on top of the 2 boxes, and I picked up my lantern, and I waved it north to south." But the train still collided. And the jury and the judge thought about it, and they came back and they said, "You know, he did everything right. He got onto the platform. He stood on the box. He waved his lantern. Everything he did was right. Sometimes terrible accidents happen. You are not responsible." Well, all his friends were rejoicing, and they looked for him, and they couldn't find David anywhere. And finally, they found him in the back of the courtroom. And he was in a chair, and he was curled into himself, and he was rocking back and forth, and he was crying. And his friends said, "David, you were innocent. You did what you were supposed to. You went up the stairs. You got onto the platform. You climbed the ladder. You stood on the box. You waved your lantern. It was an accident. You were not responsible. Why are you upset?" And he said, "Because I was afraid they were going to ask me a question." What question could they possibly have asked you to make this different? And he said, "I was afraid they were going to ask me if my lantern was lit." We bring you to the platform. We give you the ladder. We put you on those boxes. We hand you the lantern. But you are the only ones that can light the lantern. Seek peace and pursue it. We'll see you next year.